And the human faces of war in Afghanistan. On the left, Captain Kyle Vandegeesen of North Attleboro, Massachusetts, one of the 14 Americans who died in helicopter crashes in Afghanistan on Monday. He was a former high school quarterback, husband, and father who gave his life for his country. And on the right, Matthew Ho, a former Marine Corps captain who spent 6 years in Iraq but is now resigning because he sees no hope in the U.S. mission in Afghanistan. Both men served their country honorably, and their experiences are what make President Obama's decision on the way forward so difficult and so important. On Monday, the president spoke to soldiers and seamen in Florida and explained why he's taking his time.
I will never rush the solemn decision of sending you into harm's way. I won't risk your lives unless it is absolutely necessary. And if it is necessary, we will back you up to the hilt.
Jon Soltz is chairman of VoteVets.org and an Iraq war veteran. He joins us live here from Washington. John, first on the question of the time that the president is taking to make this decision. What do you make of it?
Well, you know, there's a lot of talk right now about what we saw in the lead-in where he says basically, I'm not going to risk your lives unless I know exactly what's going on. But to be fair, nobody supported the Obama administration from a veteran standpoint more than VoteVets.org has our group. But it shouldn't have taken 9 months for him to conduct a strategy assessment in Afghanistan on whether or not he wants to go counterterrorism or counterinsurgency. And if he had been more specific, it probably wouldn't have caused this rift we're seeing with McChrystal and the statements that the generals made. So hopefully, you know, we'll get something quickly because the troops on the ground need guidance as to what their mission is going to be, and that will dictate how many troops we need.
Matthew Ho, who we mentioned in the lead-in, here's what he said about the war in Afghanistan, and he said, quote, "To put it simply, I fail to see the value or the worth in the continued U.S. casualties or expenditures of resources in support of the Afghan government in what is truly a 35-year-old civil war." Do you agree or disagree?
I think this guy needs to be listened to. When you express those kind of concerns, it was clear Richard Holbrooke wanted to listen to him, Ambassador Eikenberry wanted to listen to him. What he's talking about basically is when the United States came in and aligned with the Northern Alliance in the early part of the war, we changed the dynamic of a civil conflict that was in place. And as you've seen, the illegitimacy of the Karzai government evolved, has this war against al-Qaeda transferred from a war of a specific terrorist network to a movement that we see in Afghanistan that now rallies support around an anti-corruption theme of the Karzai administration. I think that's a very valid point as to how we proceed moving forward. Not that there isn't a need to be there militarily, but is it a very specific mission, or are we going to be seen to the Afghans as, you know, people who provide credibility to a corrupt government? And his point is valid.
Do you get a sense that there is a confusion among most of the troops about Afghanistan, or should the moment come when President Obama says, okay, here is the specific mission, here's what I'm asking you to do, they will all essentially fall in line?
They'll fall in line, but the president has to provide that guidance. I got an email from a kid in Afghanistan last night. I mean, he was very concerned about as we proceed forward. There's other people in VoteVets that offer the alternative opinion. You know, there will be, if you put those troops on the ground, the 40,000 troops, you will see a decline in violence, as Jim Miklashevsky talked about on the lead-in. But in the end, it might not get you where you want to go in terms of the Pakistani issue, in terms of the interagency governmental process that will be required for us to build this country up. The military will fall in line, but I think there's real concern as if they want to go to this counterinsurgency strategy, can the military support that, and will those sacrifices actually amount to anything in the long haul?
Jon Soltz of VoteVets.org. John, thanks as always. We appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me.